It's that time when bad is good and terrible is even better. Yes, it's this week's Zaius Report, your weekly look at cult movies and other crap. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host, the movie man who knows it all and where the bodies are buried. His horrorness, the Prince of Slime, the original invader for Mars himself, the man for whom the phrase B-grade was invented. Welcome, Zaius.
And then there's silence.
Well,
not anymore. Not anymore.
Now, well, we don't normally start the show like that, but
Yeah, that's sort of like dead air, isn't it? Really.
but
It's sort of like making it into a, it's a definite. What would you say? It's a horror thing. We've just done dead.
Anyway, for everybody listening, welcome to the Zaius Report, and thank you everybody for tuning in and listening. We really appreciate your support. We're getting listeners now from all over the world, countries I really wouldn't have expected. We're getting listeners from Germany, from Holland, from Italy. We're getting ones from the Middle East, from South America. It's just absolutely, it's blowing my mind. So I want to thank everybody who's actually listening in. Really appreciate it. So I am, of course, Warren, giving the crappiest introduction I think I've ever given. And joining me as usual in the virtual studio is, of course, Velvet Rose. How are you going, Velvet?
Hello. Velvet Rose here. And I don't want to talk too much because we got an amazing guest. So let's take all the emphasis on me and put it on our guest.
Yeah, not that we don't love hearing from Velvet, but of course we have an amazing guest joining us for the first part of this podcast. And look, she has an amazing career, basically, spanning through music, spanning through television, huge array of movies under her belt. She's a singer, a writer, an actress, a director, a producer. There is nothing this woman can't do. In fact, I'm just going to rename her Superwoman or Wonder Woman.
Totally.
And it is, of course.
I think it's a jack of all trades and a master of none. Is that how it says?
There you go.
No.
Well said.
But introducing Eileen Daly. How are you, Eileen?
I'm very well. Thank you, Warren. Thank you for having me on the show. And it was lovely to meet Velvet Rose. Yeah, very well. England is coming up into autumn now. And it's getting very cold here in London. And you're in Australia, and Velvet's in the States, so it's
that's right. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like we're traveling here, aren't we?
Oh, it is. It's the world united on this podcast. But we really wanted to talk to you, Eileen, because obviously you've got such a past. I mean, when we look at, you've been in British TV shows such as Soldier, EastEnders. I even remember you being in an episode of Eurotrash, believe it or not. You've obviously made some movies with great cult following, movies that a lot of our listeners, are well familiar with, such as Cradle of Fear, Sacred Flesh, All About Anna, and probably one of the most famous movies that you've been in, of course, Razorblade Smile, which always gets talked about with, any sort of cult movie listeners. You've also, been in reality TV. You've been in X Factor. You were in Big Brother last year. Your career is just absolutely huge.
Mm-hmm. It's very varied. That's what I'd say. And I would actually say, the more varied is the spice of life, really. Why stick at something, just that thing when you can do everything and enjoy everything?
Yes.
if I could actually paint, I'd be painting while I was talking. Do you know what I mean? It'd be lovely. I think you can't, you just got to try everything in life. And I've actually, when I was very young, I realized that I wanted to try everything. And basically I've more or less tried most things in this sort of like genre career and because I didn't want to stay, I didn't want to be 15, 16, 17 and then married, children, then sort of like have a little career in this and dabble in that. I wanted to taste the world. I wanted to taste people. I wanted to taste everything because I was greedy. And I think, and I still want to taste. I don't want to stop. It's not, and I think you're just born with, wheels. You just want to go forward and forward and forward. And yeah, sometimes I have gone backwards and I've done some really stupid things in my career that I think, oh God. But then would I actually take them away? No, because that actually makes it, people have, you make mistakes, and with your mistakes, actually, it makes you more of a sort of like a whole person. So you know that you won't do that again.
Right.
I've made mistakes, and, you do. And in life, you make mistakes. And I've made some dreadful mistakes and career choices. Absolutely. And, they've died on its arse or it's taken off in the really wrong direction that I really want it to. But, if I had to go back and say, would I do it again? You know what? I'd do it again. Yeah, I'd do it because that's, I wouldn't be me if I didn't say yes. I'm not a no girl. I'm a real, if they say, I've got a job for you and you've got to do this. Oh, okay. Yeah, fine.
Well, it's
excellent.
I mean, I've always loved that idea of, I think it's often referred to as the Michael Caine School of Acting, which is basically, you do everything. It's whether it be acting or whether it be, just entertainment in general, it's about the experience. You take the good with the bad. You learn from the bad. It adds to you. It makes you a bigger person. And the other thing too is sometimes the bad just pays the bills. So it's, I'm totally, in support of that. You learn from your mistakes and it makes you a bigger person.
Yes, it does. And if you are an entertainer, and I just sort of like, if you do entertain, it doesn't matter if it is, through singing, through doing movies or reality or TV. If you're bred as an entertainer, you are an entertainer. You are a person. If you go to the park, you will talk to people. You're constantly giving and entertaining and trying to make people. And I think it's a people pleaser thing too. One would actually say that you try to make people endear to you, but it isn't. It's also it's about just basically trying to make people happy and entertain them. It's I'm not saying that I'm the Julie Garland or sort of rat-tat-tat-tat-tat when I get out into a shop and I buy a couple of apples and I'm going ra-la-la-la-la-la. No, it's about hands of Baby Jane. It's not quite like that. No, but it's...
Do you have, like, of your resume, are there certain movies that you would sort of say, look, you look back and say, I'm really proud of what I did there. I looked at that and I sort of say, wow, I'm so glad I did that.
I wouldn't. Right. Okay. I'm going to be very honest here. I don't actually watch. I haven't watched hardly any of my movies that I've made.
Really?
And no, I don't. I don't. It will make my toes curl and my bottom squeeze in like oh my God. Oh, so I would say that and am I proud? No, I'm not. I'm never proud because I'm always striving to actually do better. So I can't actually watch something and think that I'm proud of it. I can't because I think, oh God, oh my God, oh God. That's just it just makes my toes curl. So no,
you're your own worst critic. You're your own worst critic. So it makes sense. You're not going to sit and watch your movies. You were there. You know how the movie ends. You know what happens. Yeah. And for you, it would just be
I'm actually really impressed by that. I'm actually really impressed by that. That you know, it's like it's you've done that. You know, I've learned from that. Now I want to move forward and see what I can do even better. I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed.
Thank you. It's all about trying to give your best, and it's going forward. You know, it's just going forward, and that's how I look at it, and that's it's good. It's good. Yeah, I feel good doing that.
It's one thing I do have to say though is that. Especially with the move into, you know, directing and producing and so forth. Yeah. So some of the movies that that you've done that I absolutely adore are the Daly Does series.
Yes,
and those are so much fun. You sit down and you watch those, and it's just they're so enjoyable.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Yeah, just have to thank you for producing those. Is there work that you're actually sort of doing right now that you can let everybody know about?
Yes, I am actually, because I've for the last 3 years I've been doing my own movies. They're sort of like comedy, horror. They're sort of Hammer horror come sort of carry on, and it's a ghost team that goes through all the movies. So we've got Witches Are Bitches that I'm actually editing at the moment. There's Mr. Crispin, who I'm just scoring at the moment, which is Mr. Crispin is kind of a Norman Bates. Witches Can Be Bitches is basically a house that is haunted by the witches that's I won't tell you, that sort of suck the life out of you in a certain way, but I won't actually.
Okay, it sounds like we will be. It's destined to be a cult classic. I can already tell.
I've actually finished, and I've still got. I finished Hollywood Betrayed, which is a ghost. It's about a Hollywood star haunting a hotel, and a vampire film called First Bite, and they're all ready to go. And I'm looking for a distributor to do the 4 films. Actually, in America, I'd like to do America, and I'd like to do Australia. So I am looking for a distributor to. They're sort of they're feature length. They're funny. It's the same cast. I wrote it. I directed them. No, really, I was very excited. Now that I'm very excited because I'm terribly proud about, because I never thought that I would ever be able to make a film and you know, they're very low budget. They're saucy, cheeky, little bit of horror, fun, and they're very, very quirky. And I've never seen it. They're like mockumentaries. So they start out as a mockumentary, and then the ghost team get into this sort of like situation that they can't get out of. And in the end, they never solved. And the funniest bit, they never solve the demons. They never get rid of them. And they're always so proud that they've done a good job, and they leave the building. And so it's a little bit of a Scooby-Doo team. So those I'm very proud. And when I've actually finished, which hopefully will be by the end of I hope by Christmas, I'll have 4 feature films under my belt that I can actually be terribly proud of. And I don't care if anyone doesn't like them, because I like them, and I feel that yes, I did it. And that's all. I don't even know. Even if they don't even get seen, I just sort of think, Yes, I did it. I achieved it. For being quite a non-achiever at school and leaving school at a very, very young age and playing lots of truant and not not having a great education, not being able to read really very well when I left school or write, spell or write or anything. I think that it's been a long, long struggle with, becoming an actress. I was a model first and an actress and sort of like then writing scripts, then, and then writing songs and then producing songs and then doing melodies. All this is, comes from a very sort of humble background that my education was so bad that I never thought by the time I left school at 15, when I played truant every day before that, lots of hormones and boys and kissing and what. And you think, but now I can actually think back and think, it was good. I'm glad. I'm very, very proud of going through all that and reaching the grand old age I am now, and doing all that and having little masterpieces that I can say, what, I did it.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. I mean, I remember, I don't know, it might have been David Bowie, I'm not 100% sure, who made the comment once that there's actually no such thing as a bad song. Because if you produce a piece of music somewhere in the world, even if everybody cans it, says it's terrible, there's someone in their living room who says that was the best song I've ever heard.
Right.
Someone will enjoy it. It's a bit like Yes, of course. And I agree with that, Not everyone likes everything. Now, nowadays, everyone is sort of spoon-fed. And we're not sort of like, sort of alternative and sort of quirky things and kooky things. And, people are sort of like not into so much. They're sort of into the Dior or the Chanel of the films, a load of CGI and no scripts and, and acting and people acting sort of, quite well acted, actually. There is some fantastic actors out there and there's some great songs. But when I was growing up to the Ramones and, the Cramps and the Meteor.
Oh, the Cramps.
I absolutely I grew up with all Adam and the Ant and all this and now it just seems that I turn on the radio and it just seems all spoon-fed with manufactured sort of music with no content. And that's how, I think some of the films are nowadays. They're all CGI, but no content. Now, what I try to do is make loads of content and make it really on hardly any budget. And I hope, that comes through. That comes through when you do things, even in songwriting or, just put content, just put some really good thick content in there and make it kooky and alternative and a little bit out there. I think, one day it will turn around and everyone will want that. But, at the moment they don't, do they? It's quite...
I know it's sad. I mean, we look at so much of the product coming out of, especially the United States at the moment. And if you removed all the CGI and the action scenes and the cities collapsing into the sea and all the rest of it, there's not a lot left.
It's sad to say. Yes.
I mean, I once heard a reviewer actually say that if you watch the original Alien, and I must admit, I love the movie, the original Alien, but if you take a lot of the CGI out of it, it's actually just a well acted B movie. It was the CGI that actually blew it out of proportion on the big screen, and so I think in some ways, CGI can really help a movie that's got good writing, a good sort of cast. But the problem is there's so many movies that we're now seeing that honestly just have a shit cast, shit writing, and they just try to survive on the fact that it's got tons of CGI.
And loads of money backing it.
Yeah.
Well, you can't take away a good script. And that's, if you've got a good script and you've got, and fantastic lighting and, and a good director, you can make an absolute masterpiece. And they have been doing from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. These fantastic scripts. I wouldn't say that I'm not saying that my scripts aren't that fantastic. They're sweet, but they're not they're not going to blow your mind. They're not Shakespeare, but but there again, I watched Terminator, and I for the second time, and I thought I kind of got bored. I was you start it's you want something that's gripping. I don't know what to say.
do you have? Do you have sort of favorite styles? I mean, obviously, you from what you're saying, you definitely want a movie to be story driven and well written and well acted. But are there types of movies that you find yourself sort of always being drawn to, and types of movies that you tend to try to stay away from, just in your own personal life, if you go to the cinema or you turn on the TV and so forth?
I think I loved Moon. I love sci-fi. Oh, and the script, and it was Dave Bowie's boy, his little boy that directed Moon, and that's quite interesting. He directed it, and a friend of mine, Matt Berry, was in it. But it's such a good film, and quite frankly, it's a man in a set, just as himself. He carries the film. He's on the moon. And he's governed by an AI, and it's just him. And of course, they pretend they pretend that he's an android as well. They've made loads of him. Yeah. But it's a great script. Now,
okay, I didn't want to interrupt you for a second. I was lost. Okay, this is the movie with Sam Rockwell and Kevin Spacey is doing the voice of the AI. Is this the movie we're talking about?
I think so. I don't know the actor. Velvet, I think you're right. Moon,
okay, I just wanted to check. I wanted to make sure I was following the same movie. Yes, that is a great movie. I saw that in the theater. Yeah, and it turns out they basically clone him, and when the clone dies or wears off, he's just replicated, but he doesn't know he's a clone. Okay, making sure. Okay.
Well done. And then he goes into the pod, and then he flies back home.
Yes.
To what, though? To what is the question?
Yeah. Well, those type of movies I can watch all the time. But as for Bridget Jones, I absolutely hate. I could never think of anything worse than going to see a Bridget Jones.
Especially the new one where she's pregnant and she doesn't know who the father is. I'm like, wow, that's is that the kind of stories we're telling now? What in the United States is a really trashy talk show is now a mainstream movie.
Yeah, exactly. What is a Jerry Springer is now a
exactly. Or Maury Povich, where they bring people on and give them DNA tests. You are not the father. Got 20 guys lined up. All of them took a DNA test. None of them their father. She'll come back next time with 20 other guys who might be the father. That is now a mainstream movie. Folks, that is now a mainstream movie. Bridget Jones's Baby. So watch at your own peril. If you've got brain cells to spare, that's the movie to go see.
That sort of sums it up, wasn't it? That's kind of something I couldn't even walk past the cinema. And they're showing that. That is like you run past the cinema. Do you know what I mean? Like,
totally.
So would I sort of assume, Eileen, that you would be a fan of something like, for instance, 2001 or a movie along those lines?
Not really. 2001, I would say it wasn't trashy enough for me. I trashy sci-fi. It 2001 was a little bit where they had the baby and you had to guess, with the baby was sort of, it was a little bit too highbrow. I like something that I don't have to think about, but I really like sci-fi. Something that you can sort of sit there and go, oh yeah, And 2001 was sort of like, what the hell is that about?
Exactly. What the hell is that? That was one of the first time I saw.
3-4 times. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
I did like it. I did like 2001. Little bit too sort of like, yeah.
I like it until the end. Yeah, I like it until the end, and then they start doing all the weird shit, and you're just like, okay, lights are going past his face. His face is distorting. Now there's a giant baby.
I know there's a
staring
baby.
At the earth.
Have you found that obviously with some of the reality TV too that you've been in, Eileen, for instance, I think back in 2014 you and your partner obviously got through in X Factor in the UK, and then of course the following year you were on Big Brother. Did you how did you find those experiences?
Well, to tell you the truth, I actually do I tell the truth or do I say it was fine? We found it terribly stressful, the X Factor, because really we were out of the box. We were the sort of like the wild card in so many words. They due to our age, due to our background of rock and music, and I don't know if we were really supposed to be in there. They wanted us in there because they wanted a show, and kind of that we fitted what they wanted to put us in as a show. We were never going to get anywhere. Of course, it wouldn't. And another thing is, at this time, the stress levels were so high that I was getting the most awful migraines and sinusitis. Oh my God. It was stressful because I knew that I wasn't in the right environment. I knew that they weren't using us for the right reasons. And it was making my stress levels go extremely high. I thought they may be taking the mickey, or they want to take the mickey out of us. They were very, very nice and they were very polite, but which actually didn't help in my health at all, because I was so stressed. And by being stressed, we didn't perform. I didn't perform that well. All I seemed to be doing was sort of standing there, sort of like looking like a rabbit in the headlights, thinking, "What the hell am I doing on here?" Really. And they actually asked us on. We didn't audition. They actually asked us onto the show. So, we thought, well, if they've asked us onto the show, they must want us. They must enjoy our music. They must enjoy what Ben and I are producing and stuff like that, And so, of course, we did at some stage think, well, okay, we've got a chance here, and and then it suddenly dawned on us that we haven't really. They've asked us on for totally different reasons than what we thought. My stress level went up. My migraines were dreadful, and dreadful. So it was good. I'm glad, and I would never have taken it away. And it was we've met lovely, lovely people, and Simon was nice, and and everyone was very, very nice to us. So I wouldn't take it away from us at all. And
that's good.
We did it, and we got through it, and people still, in a way, people found it entertaining.
Oh, that's good. I mean, it's not good what you had to go through, but it's good that you came away with an experience
that you're finding the positive. Yeah, you're finding the positive. I think that's the way it is with television, though. So, would you say this is correct, that with television, especially reality TV, you don't know what you're really getting into. Like, they give you just kind of a brief overview. But whereas in a film, you got a script, maybe you have some room to improvise, but you have more control, and you definitely can maintain a higher level of maybe respect. Like, what do you think, Eileen?
Well, I think as an actress in a controlled environment, on a set, in a film, your script, how good you are, and people want you there for the right reasons. They want you to act your bloody socks off. and do a good job. Whereas if you go into something like the X Factor, you don't know if they've got good intentions on you, or they want you to play the full card. So your actual power is taken away by all the producers that think, oh, we'll make them look really silly. Or do you trust them to make them? So you just don't know. You go in there and you think, okay, you've got my career in your hands, and you can make me look an absolute prick at this, or you can make me look all right. Well, for one reason only, they didn't plug. Ben is a fantastic guitarist. He's like Mick Ronson. He's like Bowie's guitarist. He's fantastic. And when we were backstage, Ben said, "Are you going to plug my guitar in for this scene?" They said, "No. We can't do that. You can't. We can't have leads all over the place." So we said,
"What?"
Okay. He said, "Well, yeah." So anyway,
oh my gosh, that's very disappointing, to say the least. Oh my gosh,
especially being a musician, an artist, a producer, a writer. He does some fantastic songs. He is an absolute genius. And then they say, and a great guitar player. And they say, no, you can't. So when he went on, they tipped Cheryl to say, and she said, oh, is he? And then he had to sort of like, and then she said, is he really playing that guitar? Hey, that's the full card.
Yeah.
No. It kind of goes into sort of like, and I did the worst thing ever, and you're most probably going to get loads of hits on this, on the thing. I went in, I had a terrible, terrible headache. I went on stage, my mouth actually dried. I got 4,000 people in the audience, and I'm doing a Tom Jones song. And I start off, I saw the night on the light, and I start off in the wrong key. I really died. Start off in the wrong key. I just, because the nerves, the headache, the air guitaring that he couldn't get plugged in. They were kind of taking the piss.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I'm dying here. I'm dying on stage. It was okay because everyone stood up at the end in Wembley Arena. All the kids of 15, 13 and their mothers stood up and they clapped. And I think, oh, thank you for that, because I know I didn't give the best performance. I started off wrong. I tried to correct it, and it didn't. I'll use a phrase from Australia. Fair dinkum to them.
Well done.
Can I get a translation? I don't know what that means.
Fair dinkum means honesty.
Got it. All right, thanks.
Yeah. So,
right on.
Yeah, yes. We Australians unfortunately often need subtitles when we travel around the world. We have the ability to change every word into something else and shorten every word, put a Z or an E or something on the end of it. And no one has any idea what we're talking about. But anyway.
Eileen knows.
I
Now,
know.
Eileen, just leading on or sort of moving on from that, did you find that your experience when you were in Big Brother, did you find that it actually helped, and I suppose from the X Factor as well, did it help sort of find a sort of a newer audience as well for a lot of your acting, producing and directing?
Yes, I will say this. I did. It was a wider audience, a younger audience that started to sort of follow me and thought that it was cool. I liked being in Big Brother was a lot easier than X Factor. I must admit, because I was just myself, and I didn't really play up. I didn't do it. By playing up, I just thought, you know what? You can go in there and you can act an arsehole. And basically I could go in there and say, darling, I want butter on my bread, not stalk margarine. I could do all that crap and, and I did when they said, when they called me up and they wanted me on there, I just made a conscious decision that I will go in like I am, like me. I would take the mask and I put the mask away and I would just be me. And I think that was a decision that I'm very, very glad that I made, because I made so many friends. And when I came out, I made so many people said, you were great. You were really great. Yeah. You were honest. That's cool. You were down to earth. You didn't show off in any, look at me. I just thought, that was, and I'm glad that I was just me, because, I still get stopped in the street and they say, Eileen, you're wonderful. I really enjoyed you,
Nice.
And that was nice. I could have gone in as Perez. I'm an actress. Yeah. I could be anything I wanted. I could be the demon from hell. But, at the end of the day, it's reality. And I can act in feature films as the demon of hell, and that's fine. But in reality TV, I learned quickly from the X Factor, they can do anything they want, and they can make you the most hated woman in England quite quickly. So I decided that that was it for me. I needed to be me and put the mask away and say hello to me.
Well, the one thing I have to admit about that show in particular was that as you said, you went in as yourself. Obviously for anyone who hasn't seen British Big Brother, because obviously we've got people who listen from all around the world. But you didn't win the particular show, but you definitely came out, in my mind, almost as the people's choice. You came out as being so popular, like just everybody fell in love with you. It's like, this is Eileen, she's so cool, and I think you'd be really proud of yourself, for that.
Thank you.
Oh no, sorry, go on. I cut you off. Sorry.
No. That's it, really. No, thank you.
So you do think that has helped you sort of find a new audience, for the work that you're doing at the moment, that you maybe wouldn't have had before? I
think so. Always, everything that you do in life, always, you like the Pied Piper. There will be always people that think, you know what, that's really cool. Okay. We'll go with that, and we'll watch and see how this girl develops, or what she's doing at the moment. There's always new people that want to see. Well, it's all about entertainment, and they always want to see new things. As for Big Brother, I think yes, and all for the right reasons, Warren. I think I've got a younger audience, which is. And they're kind of loyal fans, and I think everything is. How do I explain it? It's cool. It's at the end of the day, it doesn't. It matters, and it doesn't matter, because you just carry on.
Yeah.
You just do what you're good at, and and I do. I've got some wonderful friends and followers, and I wouldn't even call them followers, because they send me messages, and they're really nice people. So, and I haven't had any bad trolling or awful people sort of like saying you're a pig, or
Well, there's one thing. There's one thing I have to let everybody listening know, and that is that I was on another podcast, which was like a comedy talk show podcast, comedy news one, and we did about 25 shows, and I'd sent a number to Eileen and so forth, and this is going back like last year and early this year, and when the show came to an end, when we decided that we'd had enough, we'd done 25 episodes and we didn't want to do any more, and you, Eileen, sent me the most beautiful message as a direct message on Twitter, basically sort of saying, congratulations, well done, keep trying, you've learned from this, best of luck on your future projects and so forth. And I just want to let everybody know that's the sort of person Eileen is. You've got a heart of gold.
Well, I thought you were. Thank you very much. But Warren, I thought you were sad. You sounded sad. I saw a message. I saw a tweet. That's all. I thought you were just a little sad. So I thought, well, and you'd worked so hard and tried and done all your bits, and it's hard out there. It really is tough, and and you said, oh, well, this will be the last. And I thought, oh, God, well, I just with you.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you were Australian. You were in London. It was Australian when you posted it, or when we did this, when we're doing this. I was taken back when you said, "Oh, it's 5:30." It was 5:30 in the morning.
See, that's the beauty of social media, bringing people together.
Oh, you should have seen it, because Eileen and I quickly Skyped before we did this, and I had only literally just woken up, and basically I've got sleep in my eyes. I haven't brushed my teeth. I haven't shaved. I look like the creature that's just, sort of come out of hell. And it was like, wow, fantastic introduction, Warren.
You said it's 5:30 in the morning. I just didn't know how my Skype was going to work. So
you were fantastic. You were fantastic. Look, we have to thank you so much for coming on and chatting, with us, Eileen. It's meant a lot. You've been absolutely fantastic. I cannot thank you enough for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yes.
It really is a treat to speak to you too. It was.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much
for your time.
Now,
is there anything? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no. You know exactly what I was going to say, and you've got a better voice than I do, Velvet. So go for it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being on with us today, Eileen. Is there anything that you want to plug? Any social media, upcoming projects, charity events, anything you want to plug? Go for it. Take all the time you need. Any links, any addresses, phone numbers, anything you want to plug, go for it.
Thank you. Well, I actually just look out for my movies. I've got EileenDalyProductions.com, and look out because we've got Witches Are Bitches, we've got Hollywood Betrayed, and we've got The Vampire First Bite, and we've got Mr. Crispin. So look out for the movies. I'd love if anyone's out there on a distribution. I'd love to get distribution in America and Australia, or where any distribution. I would love to hear. I'm sort of thinking about going to Troma, but that's another issue. And check out our songs on Eileen and Ben. My God, I've got a new band, the Chelsea Vampires.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, tell us a little about that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we've got the Chelsea Vampires came about because we were doing Eileen and Ben, and they were sort of classical, very ballady. You've come so far to burn, and they were sort of like that. Beautiful songs, absolutely beautiful. But then I said to Ben, let's just go a little bit rock. Let's give it a little bit sort of like meteor, sort of Crampsy kind of style, that I always loved. And we came up with the name, the Chelsea Vampires. We're doing a website for it. We've got some songs that we've produced in the studio, and so look out for the Chelsea Vampires, because that's going to be the next project that Ben and Eileen we're going to be doing. So it's all go. I've also got I'm also going to do a new movie. It's after I finish these movies, I'm doing a werewolf movie, and it's called She's a Bitch. It's going in the right direction, and it's it's going forward rather than backwards.
Oh, fantastic!
Thank you for letting me say those. That's sweet.
Oh no, that's cool. And just to let everybody know, you can of course follow Eileen on Twitter. What's your Twitter address, Eileen?
Starlet.
Eileen Starlet, I should say. Yep. Starlet. All one word. So everybody, please, get onto your Twitter if you are a Twitter follower, because obviously not everyone that listens to this show actually is a Twitter person. But obviously if you're on Twitter, get on, follow Eileen. Also, subscribe to her YouTube channel, because there's some fantastic stuff on there. Some really cool stuff and some really funny stuff too, I have to admit. So,
thank you.
So get onto Eileen's YouTube. Look, thank you so much for joining us today. Eileen, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely.
both of you. Big kisses, even though we can't see each other. And I wish you, well, lots of love coming over from London. Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right, well, look, we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Oh, we're just careening off the track.
This is going to be a long edit.
Oh, no, that's staying in there.
Okay.
The Only Funny to Us podcast with brand new episodes every Monday night at 8 at onlyfunnytous.com.
And we're back. Well, Velvet, wasn't that fantastic?
Oh, absolutely. What a delightful guest. I look forward to speaking to her again, having her on again in the future. She's got a lot going on, so I'm sure she'll love to talk about some of her movies that'll be destined for cult status, I'm sure. So looking forward to that. Thanks again, Eileen.
Oh,
Hope
I
to
know.
talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. But yeah, would say to everybody, check out her movies. Whether you just hop onto Netflix or whether you hop onto Internet Movie Database, you can do a full search of all her movies there. Obviously, a lot of horror movies, a lot of vampire movies, a lot of, ghost movies, and then of course all the comedy horror that she was referring to as well. So yeah, check it all out and go to town, because trust me, you'll have fun. They're really good fun. But now it's time for movie review. And we've got a real classic to start off with. And this is a movie that I fell in love with as a young child, absolutely fell in love with, and I've loved it ever since. And that is Earth versus the Flying Sausers. This is just a brilliant cult classic from 1956. And it was directed by Fred Sears and stars the... Look, you will recognise this guy when you see him, Hugh Marlowe, and of course, Jane Taylor. Hugh Marlowe, of course, was in Creature from the Black Lagoon that everybody remembers. He was a big actor through the 50s and 60s, did a lot of B grade, but also did a lot of big Hollywood movies as well. I mean, he was a pretty big name, Hugh Marlowe. Wouldn't you agree?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally, definitely. Like, he's already in at least 2 cult films, Creature from the Black Lagoon and Earth versus the Flying Saucers. So yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
His place in cinema history is permanent. He cannot be dethroned. So yeah, that's very cool. Very cool. Not many people can say that. I mean, he's even in the Day the Earth Stood Still. I mean, All About Eve. Yeah.
Yep.
This guy is in so many classic.
Oh, he was
films.
very, very hard-working actor through that period of time, and there's so many movies to his credit. But I suppose we should run through with everybody, if they haven't actually seen this movie, what it's actually all about, and then we can start to talk about some other stuff, because this movie is actually a lot more influential than a lot of people really. Well, I was going to say really realise, but actually realise. So, but anyway, Earth versus the Flying Saucers. It's basically the story of a scientist and his wife, who are working on a project called Operation Skyhook, which is the early satellite program, if you like, of the United States, launching satellites into space. Basically, the birth of the American space program. But things start to go a little bit wrong. All the satellites that they start to send up into space, basically, they're losing contact with. They're disappearing. And they're finding that all the satellites are crashing to Earth. And they can't work out, what the problem is. Then the characters of Hugh Marlowe and Joan Taylor are driving along the road one day where they come in contact with a flying saucer. Not just a UFO, but an actual flying saucer. And I don't want to describe the entire film, because we'll be here for a week. But basically, what then happens is that the aliens make contact with the humans and basically let it be known that they're intending to conquer the Earth. And it then comes down to basically our main stars to come up with a plan to try to defeat the aliens. So pretty kind of standard story, if you like. But this is a really good movie. It's got a good pace. It's not slow by any means. It keeps going. It keeps moving. It keeps moving. I absolutely, fell in love with it. I mean, what are your thoughts about it, Velvet?
I didn't realize how iconic this film was until I rewatched it, because same as you, I also saw this as a young girl. It was one of those movies that was just playing on one of the pay channels when I was younger, and it was on. And yeah, when I rewatched it, I was like, oh, wow. And also, there's so much that makes this film stand out. Like, first off, unlike the films of today, this movie assumed that if you were watching it, you were intelligent. Like, they used adult language, and I don't mean adult as in cussing. I mean, intelligent, well-spoken language. They used a lot of scientific terms and terminology, and they expected you to be able to follow their, theories and scientific applications for how they were going to defend the Earth against this threat. And I like that. I was like, wow, this is a film that actually expected the audience to be intelligent as well. It wasn't like, okay, we're going to dumb down everything so you can understand the story. Like, they didn't play. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I was like, wow, this isn't when you hear the title, it sounds a little campy, sounds a little goofy, Earth versus the Flying Saucers, but it's actually a really intelligent film for the time that, based on the pop culture of the time. It's a time capsule film, so I do like those. It's very 1950s, but at the same time, the woman in the film is very strong, very intelligent. Like, there's a lot of the stereotypical roles of the 50s. Yes, she's married, yes, she's a housewife, but she's also working and educated, and she's strong. And so I really like that. So, I mean, there's so much going on in this movie.
She's definitely a strong character. I mean, she's very brave. She's not the, as women are often portrayed in movies of this time, where she's sort of screaming all the time or hiding. She's actually prepared to put herself out there in the front line. She's not scared, at all.
Right. Right.
So, so I think she's a really interesting character. And the other thing too is that, what I found interesting too for a movie from 1956, they're quite open in talking about, even though yes, they're married, but they're quite open in talking about their sexual relationship.
Yes. I was like, oh my God, what a horn dog husband. Right in the beginning of the movie, this woman's driving. Again, strong woman. She's married. They're in the car. She's driving and he's, her passenger, but he's like trying to fill her up, trying to kiss on her. And then like when they get to their destination, he's trying to kiss on her, trying to fill her up. I mean, this was constantly going on throughout the movie. And I was like, wow, I bet there's so many women that are going to watch this and say, gosh, I wish my husband were such a horn dog. I was really surprised. I was like, wow, this is a movie from 1956?
Yeah.
And 1956. I was like, wow, they are they're not doing the whole, okay, we need two separate beds and we don't talk about sex at all. Like,
I mean, there's a great line in it when he starts sort of kissing her and so forth, and she sort of says, you're starting something you can't finish. And I thought, wow.
Yes,
I mean,
I was like, wow.
This is 1950. Yeah, this is 1956, and they're talking about having sex. And I thought, wow, that's really, really quite amazing. But something else that we've got to point out about this film, and one of the reasons that makes it so important, is the special effects in this movie are stop motion. Now, we've spoken about stop motion before. I'm not going to go through what it all is again. We've done it so many times.
Right.
But the thing is that the stop motion in this was actually done by the man himself, the king of stop motion, Ray Harryhausen. And Ray Harryhausen, of course, was so good at this sort of stuff. He would actually go on to win an Oscar for special effects. Now, it wouldn't be for this particular film. It would be for The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. But he... he was the king of this type of special effect, and he does it all in this movie, and it works so well, because we don't just have the flying saucers on the strings, on the fishing wire flying around. Although we do have a little bit of that, but the special effects when they're doing battle with the flying saucers and so forth, it's really well done.
It's very well done for that time. It's interesting because, as you said, Ray Harryhausen was the king of, I like to call it claymation, but no, it's definitely stop motion.
Yes,
but I like to call it claymation. And I found some trivia on this movie, and this was actually his least favorite movie that he did claymation on. And it's also the very last movie that he ever used stop motion to create collapsing buildings with. He said it was too much work, and so he stopped doing the whole collapsing buildings using stop motion. He was like, it is too much work, and this was his least favorite film, so it was evidently very tedious for him to create his art for this film. But I'm glad he soldiered through it and gave us this art piece, that we're going to have and be able to talk about for years to come.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely right. Because when the flying saucers crash into the buildings, it's very well done for 1956. It's extraordinarily well done. But the other thing too, I wanted to mention, which you mentioned at the start, Velvet, is that the science that they do in this movie, because there are scenes in this where they work out how the flying saucers fly, like what sort of means of propulsion that they use. And then they're able to work out how to knock them out of the sky, how to build a weapon to do that. And the fascinating thing about this movie is they don't just sort of say, oh, we've worked it out, we've built a weapon. They actually tell you the science of how they fly and then the science of how they're going to knock them down.
Yeah.
And that I found fascinating.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. What I also liked about this, and you mentioned as well, is the pacing on this movie is really good. A lot of times the monster movies or the flying saucer movies of the 50s had that kind of pacing where you wouldn't see the monster or alien or any kind of craft for the first 30 minutes, first hour. Sometimes not until almost the end of the movie would you see, the titular monster. And in this movie, within the first 5 minutes, you see a flying saucer, so they're not fucking around.
Oh, yeah.
So if you don't have any patience and you want to see it right away, you're going to see it in this movie. They make it happen.
And the other thing, too, is the aliens in this are really cool.
I like the aliens. I do like the aliens.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time we see them in their spacesuits, but their spacesuits are fantastic. They're really, really actually well done. And when we do finally get to see one, when they actually manage to kill an alien and they take the helmet off, we actually get to see the face. And it's really, really well done, I think, because they're very, very similar in a way to, what in popular culture, the grey alien.
Yeah.
But this is 1956. This is before grey aliens were part of mainstream culture.
Right. That's a whole interesting concept there. I would love to know more about how they were inspired to come up with the alien they came up with, because it is very close to the gray that people talk about in pop culture now. So I would love to know. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't actually know. Oh,
conspiracy.
Sorry, conspiracy. I know. Well, I suppose maybe it's a little bit like, I know that when they were making 2001, apparently NASA actually contacted the studio to try to find out whether they were getting, I should say after the film was, I think, released, they actually contacted them to find out whether they had an inside person inside NASA. because there was so much stuff in 2001 which was done, which was not really public knowledge, and NASA said was so accurate that they actually sort of thought, my God, you've got insiders in here, don't you?
Oh my God.
So yeah, was there a bit of a grey alien conspiracy here? Well, I don't know. I don't actually know when the grey alien movement started, to be honest. I mean, it's obviously it's a very American.
Yeah. For us, it's really ingrained in our psyche. I mean, it's to the point that even on our smartphones, the little emoji keyboard, there's even a little alien. Although it used to be, it's usually gray, but on some phones it's green. So they even have the little green man. But I mean, aliens are so ingrained in our popular culture. It's even part of our texting culture now when we talk to friends and family with our phones.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? But but the grey alien is a bit like, well, I suppose it just shows you how dominant American culture is, in the sense that, because if we think about it, you look at Santa Claus or Father Christmas, St. Nicholas, whatever you want to call him. Now, up until really the end of the Second World War, Santa Claus or Father Christmas, whatever, was different in every region of the world. Right. So, and then of course America came up with the Coca-Cola version of Santa Claus, and now that Santa Claus is the world Santa Claus. Sort of thing. And it's interesting.
I never realized that. I thought, yeah, you're right. I never thought about it.
And it's interesting too, the grey aliens are now the standard alien, if you like, for popular culture. Right. But before that, alien stories, from around the world, aliens all look different. And it depended a lot on the religion of the country, on the culture of the country, and all this sort of stuff. Like for instance, in Europe, aliens were often seen as humanoid, almost godlike, with like big long beards and wearing flowing capes and so forth. But now, all around the world, every alien is just a grey alien. So it shows you how...
Or a reptilian, but that's another time. That's another topic for another day.
Isn't that right? All the conspiracy theories, the president is really a reptile. We have proof. Hillary Clinton is actually a reptile.
And they got the videos on YouTube to prove.
I know. I know.
Oh my God. Okay, speaking of which, so this movie, in this case, the flying saucers are a threat. But what I'll go ahead and say I didn't like this, because when I was first watching it, like rewatching it, I should say. So when the aliens first, like a saucer comes down and, they start, like, some of the aliens start walking out of the ship. And, I'm watching this thinking, they're walking up to like a military base. So I'm thinking, they want to contact somebody who's in charge and, establish contact and get a dialogue going. And they kill the motherfucker, like, unprovoked. I'm like, dude is just walking up to the building. You didn't know if he was going to do anything, and you just, like, started killing him. So then, of course, the movie really spirals from there, and then it's a whole, then it really is Earth versus the flying saucers, because they killed an alien unprovoked. What did you think of that scene? I mean, did you have the same logic I have? Like, hey, wait, you didn't know it was enemy visit yet? Like... what do you think?
Well, that's the crazy thing about it, isn't it? It's like we come in peace, shoot to kill. We know obviously that the aliens, their intention was always to conquer the Earth. They're not peaceful, peace loving, or anything like that. But at the same time, as you said, the humans didn't know that when they first landed. And their response is to drive a truck up with a cannon and start firing the cannon at the spaceship. It's like, welcome to Earth. Eat lead, you bastards, it was... But then again, we're talking about 1956. So we're talking once again about that whole idea of, paranoia cinema, USA versus the Soviet Union, where aliens often represented, or monsters often represented the Soviet Union. So I think there's a lot in that, with America sort of defending its borders. You've landed here. It's just almost like you're an undocumented immigrant, or was it undocumented immigrants? So,
or an illegal alien.
Oh, well done.
So.
It's kind of crazy. It's like, no one tries to make any contact. They just drive a truck up and start shooting at them. But then of course they pay the price, because the aliens then blow the shit out of the rocket base.
Right. Oh my God.
And then totally. Of course it's all on from there. After that point, Hugh Marlowe actually does make contact with the aliens, and then actually finds out exactly what they want to do. But of course what they want to do is basically take over the Earth, but they want to do it without a fight. They sort of believe that their technology is so great that they can scare humans into capitulating, if you like.
Yeah, there are a bunch of fucking bullies in this movie.
Oh.
They're like, we're bigger than you. Give us your lunch money. Like,
I know.
So mean. So mean.
So they're very much like that, but it's it's I forgot what I was going to say now.
It'll come back to you.
But
another thing that caught my attention was, okay, so they're sending up before the aliens really like make contact and becomes this whole, Earth versus the flying saucers thing. So Hugh Marlowe and his wife Joan Taylor in this movie are science characters. They're sending up these rockets, periodically on the schedule, or rocket satellite type things. I'm not quite sure exactly what they're supposed to be doing, but in the movie they mention, okay, we're sending up the 12th rocket, and this one we've added television and radio surveillance. I'm like, whoa, wait. You waited until the 12th rocket?
Yeah, I know.
Fucking television and radio surveillance. What the fuck were the other ones? Practice?
I know.
What are you doing?
I know. It seems crazy. I mean, the amount of money they were probably spending to send all these rockets up, and they wait till number 12, after 11 of them have vanished, to actually sort of say, maybe we should attach something to it to find out what actually happened.
Let's see what's going on.
But the other thing too that's really amazing too is the aliens they make an ultimatum to the Earth, which is basically you've got 56 days to consider surrendering, and then we're going to come and take over the planet. So they actually tell them when they're coming, right? So
that's how cocky they were.
Yeah,
they were just like, you'll give up by then. And also, like, for people listening, they're going to go, why 56 days? Because the whole space-time thing, like in space, you're in space for 5 minutes, but on Earth, it's like 30 days. That was the logic. That's why they said, it'll take 56 Earth days for us to come, kick your ass.
No, that's you're 100% right with that. But the interesting thing, though, while that's going on, they managed to kill an alien, as we said before. And they steal his space helmet. And inside there is like a universal translator, a very Star Trek sort of thing. So from that, what they do is they say, right, we're going to learn their language. So what we did was we read the dictionary into it. How long would it have taken to have read the dictionary in? Anyway, so they managed to learn the aliens' language, and but then the machine that they've got that translates it. Now, I thought this was hilarious because, like a computer, even in 1950s, the idea of a computer, if it was printing something out, it would sort of come out of a typewriter style thing, right? But this thing doesn't. This thing actually hand writes everything in perfect calligraphy. It's like with it's not a fountain pen. It's not a fountain pen attached to an arm.
This is embarrassing to say. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but in my country, currently in the United States, and I'm so embarrassed to say this, but it's baffling for my generation. They are actually in a lot of the public school systems doing away with written handwriting. Children are no longer being taught how to write in cursive, and some schools are even doing away with writing altogether because their logic is everybody is reading. So as long as you can read type, that's all you need. So only kids who are attending public schools are learning writing skills. So it's sad that a movie like this, there will be literally 10, 20 years from now, there'll be United States children that watch this movie and be like, what is that machine doing? They won't know what calligraphy is. They will not be able to read cursive. And I'm just like, wow. So this is completely a time capsule movie, as I said at the beginning. Yeah, it's baffling, the state of our education in this country. Just, ugh.
Oh, well,
so
yeah.
So I'm glad there are films like this to document that technology existed at one time.
Yes.
although we didn't have computers that wrote in calligraphy, not quite like that, but it's nice that we have proof that there were education available to all at one time for free.
Oh, it's just you've got to see the scene though. When you watch it, you'll just break out into hysterics. I mean, this thing literally has an arm with a fountain pen on it. To write. It's just.
Before I forget, what did you think of what I call the cabbage in the sky?
Oh,
you know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you?
I know what is it? The infinite mind memory bank, I think it's referred to. It's like this machine it just looks like a giant cabbage, which they lower down, and it basically lobotomizes people.
Oh my God!
And it's able to then store all the memories of that particular person, and they do it to obviously a couple of the cast to learn information. But it's like they're in the spaceship and the aliens are there, and it's like this is a machine we call the infinitely indexed memory bank. and every time they speak did you notice the aliens almost sound like they're on a treadmill or something? It's like, we are the aliens.
Translation technology can only take you so far.
It's absolutely brilliant. But the other thing then is, but we should talk about how influential this movie is. Because one thing that you will notice is that for instance, Independence Day 2 was obviously only just recently released. And if you watch the original Independence Day, you will be amazed at the similarities between that and this film. Now, I know a lot of people will sort of say, oh, it's an alien invasion movie. Of course, they're going to be similar, Warren. But I'm not just talking similar. I'm talking almost like where they stole certain scenes.
Yeah.
It's really quite amazing in that. And then, but the other movie which actually openly admits that it took from Earth versus the Flying Saucers was the comedy Mars Attacks, if everyone remembers.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that movie.
And that is actually pretty much taken directly, from this film. So it's influenced so many movies. Also, a lot of the special effects that were in this movie were reused in a number of other sci-fi movies as well. So, it's had a huge influence on cinema, in general.
Yeah. Especially the U.S. landmarks that they show, especially in our capital. The United States is a very patriotic country, and I'm curious how people felt and reacted in 1956 upon initial viewing of this film. When you see them, destroying the Capitol, destroying the White House, these are, symbols of the centers of our power for our politics. And I was just like, wow, they did that in 1956? Because I know in 1996, when you see Independence Day originally, for a lot of Americans, that was a really shocking visual to see our landmarks destroyed in a violent fashion by a foreign threat. And on top of that, I know you're not a Cloverfield fan, but Cloverfield has the same effect. When we see a random, we don't even know what it is, rip off the head of the Statue of Liberty. Oh my God, that's horrific!
You're right. I mean, but then when you look at a lot of modern movies, I should say modern American movies now, that it's commonplace to destroy all the landmarks.
It is now. It is now. It used to be shocking, but now that's a common theme.
Yeah, I mean, we looked at what was the movie? Was it White House Down? No, sorry. Something Has Fallen. One of those, sort of like.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I just forgot.
Yeah,
I know exactly, and it's just like that. Terrorists taking over, the White House, where the president lives while he's in service to the country, and having terrorists come in and blowing shit up and killing people who work there and trying to hold the president hostage. And of course, what's his name? That big hunky guy. He has the face of a boy and the body of a man. Tatum Channing. Channing. And of course, he's the good-looking bodyguard that's going to save the day.
I don't know how. I mean, I'd be interested to get your idea on this. Is that in modern American movies? Because let's face it, the United States is a very patriotic country. I mean, it's
ridiculously.
It's obviously well known around the world. But the thing is that, like, if you look at movies in other countries, let's say like in Australia, if the Sydney Opera House gets trashed or the Sydney Harbour Bridge collapses in foreign films, we love it. We cheer. Like we think, oh, it's cool, it's like we got mentioned, and all this sort of stuff. But do you find that there's still a bit of a problem with a lot of American audiences where, if they see a landmark come down, especially post 9/11, is it, do audiences still have a bit of a problem with that, or? I
feel like it's been a total reversal, because I feel like back in the 90s and before that, it was shocking. It was like, oh my God. And now we're like, oh, we're going to kick E.T.'s ass now. Like, it was like, that was like them fighting. That's that's motivation to fight. But now it's like, damn, they did that, huh? Well, that sucks.
Yeah.
People are kind of blasé about it now. It's like, that looks fake.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect people the way it doesn't affect people the way it used to. It's definitely not a stab at our patriotism at all anymore, because we've seen it. It's kind of like we've seen the worst and we survived it, and now we move on. And I mean, that's, I don't want to get into the whole 9/11 thing, but that's a huge part of the American mentality is, we've survived it. It was horrible, but we pay very little tribute to it. Like every year when 9/11 comes along, those that were most directly affected, of course, they're going to honor it and do their thing. But I mean, it's not a national holiday. There have been years where 9/11, the anniversary of 9/11 comes around, and I totally forget. Not until like September 13th or 14th, I'll be like, oh shit, 9/11, the anniversary was a couple of days ago. Totally forgot. So, I mean, that's the American psyche. We do not dwell on the negative. We move on. We don't want to give power to the enemy. So that's what these kind of alien films have become is, oh, somebody blew up the White House in a movie. Well, that sucks. That movie sucked too. Fucking forget about it. Moving on.
It's it was one of the things I found fascinating about this, and I mean it's obviously just done for effect, but it was kind of stupid and crazy. Love to know what you think about this, Velvet. Is that the battles at the end are meant to take place in, I think it's Washington, London, Moscow, and it's either Paris or Berlin. I can't remember. Are meant to be the three big battles. That's where the battles take place. But we only get to see the Washington battle. We don't get to see about the others. We just hear about them. But they say in it that they were only able to evacuate 40% of the population of Washington, and 60% of the people are still there. But the crazy thing is, they're not hidden in their houses or in basements or something. They're wandering around the city. And, it's like, as this battle is going on, they're having picnics in the park,
Oh, my God. Yeah, no, I don't think people would be that calm about it.
It's like, they've had the aliens announced to the world. It's no great secret that it's coming in 56 days. So on the 56th day, what are they doing? They're taking their dog for a walk in the park. Really?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a faulty writing right there, I think.
Oh, dearie me. But it's, no, go on.
But overall, it's a great movie. I mean, we're laughing at some of the stuff, but overall, yeah, this is a really well-made movie, especially for 1956. Like I said, the respect they have for the audience, I mean, I really like that. That is so rare now, because some movies you literally watch and you're like, wow, they think everybody who watches this is a fucking dummy, and they have to water it down and make it, draw diagrams and use baby words so that everybody who watches it can understand the movie. Like,
yeah, no, I know you're right. It treats the audience with respect.
Yes.
It's got quite a fast pace, as we said. You won't get bored at any stage through this movie, even though some of the special effects are still a bit 1950s. Where they're still doing the that thing where they're running, but they're actually on a treadmill. So, or they're pretending to run while they're playing, showing a film in the background. So it looks a bit fake and that sort of stuff. But generally speaking, it's, there's a great scene in it where they've been attacked by a flying saucer. And, so one of the military liaison guy sort of gets on the phone and he sort of says, they're sending a bomber. And it's like, God, that was quick. I mean, I've just rung you, and there's a bomber in the air within seconds, But anyway, so they send this bomber. But what's really kind of cool about it is that when they're inside the bomber, they're actually in the cockpit of a DC-3, like just a normal, airliner of that time. So they're in the cockpit of a DC-3. But then you see the bomber from the outside, and it's a B-29. And then when the bomber gets shot down, it's a B-17. So it keeps changing all the time, depending on, on what bit you're watching. But all in all, I reckon this is it's a great film. There's also two versions of this available. There's the original black and white, and there's also a colorized version, which is readily available. So personally, I recommend to people watch the black and white because, it was designed to be filmed in black and white. I don't know. What do you think about when they colorize movies?
I'm always a fan of the original black and white because also a lot of times people don't realize the way the film was designed at the time. Everything they're wearing, the way their hairstyle, the makeup that women are wearing, etc., was designed and applied to be filmed in black and white, so that you could see all the features clearly and distinctly. And the colorized versions are just like guesses and interpretations. And you're right, sometimes it can take away from the movie because, I think they actually did pretty good on colorizing this one, because every once in a while you'll see colorized versions of things and the colors are just distracting because you're like, oh God, look at that shirt he's wearing, or oh my God, that alien looks weird. But in this one they actually did well. So you could go either way on this one, honestly. I think they actually did a good job on this one.
Check this one out, and you don't have to pay for this one. This is pretty much readily available on, I think it's on YouTube. I think it's on Vimeo. Is it Vimeo? Mm-hmm. Is that,
no, Daily Motion. Was it Daily Motion? Daily Motion.
Yeah, so now I don't know if they're in breach of copyright or not, but it is readily available. So
right.
So check it out. It really is worth seeing. And then another movie that we have to talk about again, probably in a future show, will be Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I'm glad you said that. Actually, we made a movie mistake. Our main character here in Earth versus the Flying Saucer, Hugh Marlowe, is not in the Creature from the Black Lagoon. We made a mistake there. I actually checked.
No, are you sure about that?
I'll double check again. But
I am 100% sure that Hugh Marlowe is in Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Okay, let me check again. I could be wrong. I could have misread it. But I don't see him in there. I see Richard Carlson. It's which character does he play? Because I'm not seeing him on the cast list at all.
I can't remember which character he plays, but I mean, look, maybe I am wrong, but I was 100% sure Hugh Marlowe was in
he is not in the Creature from the Black Lagoon. Maybe he's in one of the sequels?
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I stand corrected then.
I just didn't want any of our viewers or listeners, to go check out Creature of the Black Lagoon and be like, where's Hugh Marlowe? I watched this just for Hugh Marlowe, and I can't find him. And I'll be like, because he's not in there. Sorry about that, listeners.
Oh, well, I stand corrected then. Thank you, Velvet. Thank you, Velvet.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to embarrass you on the air. But I want to keep us honest. I'll keep us honest.
Don't worry. I get so many things wrong all the time. So don't worry. But no, definitely check this one out. It's a really good one. If you like those older movies, it's got some cheesy bits, but it's actually kind of serious. It's well done, treats the audience with respect. Fast paced, definitely. It gets my thumbs up.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely recommend this. Anybody who's into collecting older films, and this is definitely a sci-fi one for your collection. Absolutely. No. Whether you download it or hunt down a DVD, colorized or black and white, it's all good. Go for it.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So we will be right back.
I worked in the garden center, and a lady came in, and we had the flowers or the plants, and she asked me how much the chlamydias were.
The Only Funny to Us podcast, available now at onlyfunnytous.com.
Now, the final movie, and I've been looking forward to talking about this one so much. Our final movie for this podcast. This is a classic. This really is. It is Frankenhooker. Yes. I'm not joking. It's called Frankenhooker, and it is absolutely fantastic. This is it's so much fun. It's from 1990, and now it was directed by Frank Henenlotter, I think he pronounces his surname, and it's a comedy horror is probably the best way to describe it.
Yes,
and it's based, of course, loosely on Mary Shelley's tale of Frankenstein and his monster, but of course, yes, we have to say that Frankenstein was not the monster.
No,
I know so many people get that wrong, but it's the story of a young chap played by who's it, James Lawrence, I think it is.
There you go. You got it. Yeah,
and,
you got it.
And he is very much in love with his fiancée, and they're going to get married. And at a family get-together, it's actually the birthday party of his soon-to-be father-in-law. He invents,
what a terrible party!
Oh, I know. He invents a machine which is a remote control lawnmower. Now, unfortunately, his girlfriend, played by Patty Mullen, Mullen, I think it is. She accidentally gets killed. In fact, yes, chopped into about 100 pieces in a rogue lawnmower accident at the party. Yes, I'm not joking. She is killed by the lawnmower when it gets out of control. And our hero, if you like, or anti-hero, maybe we should better term, basically goes into a state of depression and realizes that he can reanimate her. He can bring her back to life. But because he's only got so many body parts, which he stole from the crime scene, such as I think he's got one head, he's got one hand, he's got
one foot,
a thumb, and it's just right. So he's going to need some more body parts. So he decides that he's going to go off and hire a whole heap of escorts, prostitutes, and he will basically kill them and then use their body parts to recreate his girlfriend and bring her back to life, which, of course, he does. And this is where our tale moves on.
Oh my God.
But it doesn't quite work out the way that he hoped that it would work out. Now, I know that you love this movie, Velvet. I know that you love it.
I do. This movie is absolutely insane. This is one of those movies that you see one time when you're a child, and it sticks with you for life, which is what happened to me. This movie came out in 1990. I saw it when I was 10 years old. Totally inappropriate. Should have never been watching this movie. It was on late night television. It was the whole thing of, my parents are asleep and the TV is on and Frankenhooker comes on. I saw this movie only one time. And once we started doing this podcast, I was like, have you ever seen Frankenhooker? And you said what everybody says. Nope. And I'm like, okay, yep, we have to do this movie. And crazily enough, pretty much right after I mentioned this movie, somebody was kind enough to upload this movie to YouTube. So if you want to watch Frankenhooker, I'm looking at it right now. It's still available on YouTube. So watch it before they pull it down.
Yeah, because it's probably yes. We should say that it's probably in total breach of copyright. So
absolutely, totally in breach of copyright.
Yeah, right,
or you can buy the movie. The movie is readily available for purchase, so you can also do that. Because you're going to love it, and it's worth the whopping $1.99 that they charge on online for it. So it's definitely worth it.
It's apps, but it is. I mean, as we said, it's a comedy horror, so it is absolutely. It is hilarious. I mean, there are gags in this and jokes in this. I mean, one of the things I loved about this, Velvet, is that he has to work out how he is actually going to kill all the prostitutes. But
I know exactly what you're going to say.
He can't, but of course, he can't bring himself to, shoot them or stab them or any such thing. So what he does is he invents his own form of super crack. Yeah, as in the drug crack, right? So he invents his own super type, but when you smoke this crack, it makes you explode. Because it's so powerful. And then all he needs to do is then just collect the body parts after they've exploded. And the thing I loved about it, Velvet, is that how many women does he get together? It's
my God,
14
like 10,
or
6
something?
or 10. Yeah, it's like, oh my God, I don't even know. There's a lot.
And
it's
then,
like a giant hooker party, and he's like measuring them, trying to see, okay, well, you're proportionate and all those are nice legs. And so he's dressed up as a doctor, so they just think this is his thing. They just think he's the pervy doctor. Okay, we get it. And then like, he all of a sudden is like, oh, I can't do this. Like, that's what I like about this character. Because any other Frankenstein type movie, the guy that plays Dr. Frankenstein is always power hungry. He wants to play God. And this guy doesn't want to play God. He's not power hungry. He feels bad about having to cause the death of people to achieve this goal of reanimating his dead fiance. So I like that he's really torn, and he's like, oh, and at the last minute, he's like, I can't do it. I can't kill anybody. I can't do it. But one of the hookers looks inside his doctor's bag and finds the super crack, and they go crazy. One of the girls holds up the bag and goes, drugs! Like, they're so happy. There's all these drugs now. So they all start smoking crack, and they all start exploding all over the place.
But I love it that after everybody has exploded, we see him try to leave the hotel room, and he manages to get 6 or 10 people, whatever it is, and he manages to get them all inside 2 garbags. and drag them out, and then he loads them into the car, but he can't, there's too many body parts, so the boot is open and just held open with string, but he's driving through the streets with all these body parts and stuff hanging out of the back of the boot, or as you guys say, the trunk, of the car, and it's just absolutely hilarious. Because that's the other thing is that when he's actually in there with the prostitutes, he's going around and he's got a tester, and he's actually sort of marking like a tick or a cross for what's good or bad. So he's ticking on legs and abdomens and arms and all this sort of stuff for which of the perfect bits he's actually going to want. But when he later reassembles his girlfriend, it's still got all the ticks and crosses. So she's got like this giant tick on her bum.
Oh my God. Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about Dr. Frankenstein, because in this movie he's not actually called Dr. Frankenstein. I mean, what's his name? His character's name. There we go. I'm so excited I can't talk. His character's name is Jeffrey. I mean, and no point in this movie is anybody's name Frankenstein or Franken or anything. So it's like, it's definitely a nod to the Frankenstein franchise. Like, they kind of let you know right away what you're getting just with the title, but then they don't borrow too heavily in the actual movie. I mean, there are nods to the whole Frankenstein theme, but they don't borrow too heavily, because, I mean, come on. A party full of hookers smoking crack and blowing up. I mean,
I know. But, it's just,
the way Jeffrey, our Dr. Frankenstein in this movie, when he's trying to come up with the idea of, like, how am I going to bring my fiance back to life, his method for stimulating his mind is taking a drill, a power drill, and drilling a hole in his head. And you're just like, oh my God. And he does it so good. Like, I mean, you really, like, I cringe when I see it. You, like, feel it. The way he, like, rolls his eyes up back in his head and he's vibrating as he's, like, drilling a hole in his head.
I know. It's got to be seen to be believed. It's like he uses a drill to stimulate certain nerves in his brain. It's just, he just drills into his head. It's like, oh, I'm feeling a bit sad. And he just gets out the power drill. Woo, woo. It just drills into his head, to make himself feel happy again. It's unbelievable.
I'm wondering if that's supposed to be a nod to Jeffrey Dahmer, who was known to drill holes in the serial killer who drilled holes in his victim's head. He would pour water or boiling water in the holes to, like, lobotomize him, basically.
Interesting.
I'm wondering if it's a nod to that, because by then didn't they know about Jeffrey Dahmer by 1990? I think so.
I think so,
I have to check on that. Either that's just a weird coincidence or that is a nod to Jeffrey Dahmer. I'm not 100% sure. But so, oh my goodness. So.
But the other thing too I found amazing is all the, because there's actually surprisingly a very small amount of blood in this movie. It's not actually gory, like, at all.
Yeah.
It's and in fact, when we actually see many of the body parts, they're clearly just mannequin arms and legs.
Oh, it's so fake. So fake. Yeah. So fake. And when they blow up, it looks fake as hell. It's just funny.
but also when he's there's a scene where he's putting an arm. No, I think it's the hand onto the arm, and he literally like puts super glue or some such thing on it, glues it in, and then he gets an arc welder, and he's actually welding. I'm thinking, how are you welding the body together?
Oh my God.
Interesting
fact is the year this movie came out, 1990, was in the United States, they introduced the new rating system of NC-17. So what this movie was trying to do, the reason they made everything so fake and so little blood is they did not want to get an NC-17 rating, because at the time that was like pure box office poison. You wouldn't be able to get your movie into theaters. You wouldn't be able to get good distribution. Like nobody would see it. It just would get buried so fast. So, and they also didn't want to get an X rating because, it's, there's a lot of violence, a lot of gore, and back then they would still rate violent movies with an X. It didn't have to be pornographic. If it's pornographic, it would have a triple X, but just having one X meant there would be a lot of violence. So they didn't want an NC-17 rating. They didn't want the X rating. They wanted an R rating. So what do? You blow people up and just don't have blood and make it look fake as hell. And there we go. They got the R rating.
Interesting. But some of the bits where you've got literally this mannequin leg with this bone sticking out of it, and it honestly, it looks like something out of the Flintstones. It's just, it is just so incredibly fake. But and
so fake.
And the heads when they're not connected to the bodies, it just. Oh, it is so fake, but that's what makes it so adorable, I think. It makes it absolutely so adorable. But, we should actually point out there is actually quite a bit of nudity, in this movie.
Oh, yeah. And there's actually a porn star in this movie. A lot of people overlook that. Heather Hunter is actually one of the hookers at the party, and she is the African-American female who's absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, she's one of the girls at the party that also gets blown up. So one of her body parts is Frankenhooker.
Yes, it is interesting when the Patty character who's been reanimated, he's re-brought her back to life, and she does the typical Frankenstein monster thing, breaks out, runs away, and she ends up on a subway train, I think, but as she's walking around, like you can see all the different bits, and you can see all the different skin tones. So like one leg is a different color to the other leg, and
the hell is he doing?
And she's got one white arm, but then she's got one black arm. It's just
like, what? Why on earth did he do that? But it's like, I guess maybe the other parts were too badly damaged to get it completely symmetrical. I don't know. Okay. Oh, and this is a case of be careful what you wish for. So he wanted to bring her back to life. He assumed she would, it's her head, her brain, that she'd be totally fine. But there was a lot of influence from all the other body parts. So she's walking down the street and she's just yelling. All she can really say is, "Hey, want some company? Want a date? Got any money?"
That's right. But she goes back to work as a prostitute, after she leaves, and he has to chase after her. But this is the other funny thing that I thought was funny is that this super crack, which kills them, obviously it's still inside the body. Like it hasn't fully escaped from the body yet. So when she goes off and she's working as a prostitute, anyone that has sex with her gets the super crack basically, sort of put into them, so they explode themselves.
I didn't realize that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah.
I never made that connection because, so she actually managed just to get a John. It's like, what the fuck? And you know what? But I was watching this movie, and at first I'm like, okay, why on earth would anyone pay to have sex with this crazy lady that there's obviously something wrong with her? Then I was like, you know what? That does happen. Because, with my adult entertainment background, I used to be an exotic dancer. And every club you work in, there's always at least one girl that looks god-awful. The ugliest thing on the planet to be an exotic dancer. And she still has customers. Some men, they're just so excited by the prospect of paying for it that even if it's a woman made of various body parts that can only say 3 sentences that's full of fresh scar marks, she will still land Johns.
It's quite amazing because the guy she picks up just is absolutely in lust with this creature.
He is so enamored. He is so enamored. He cannot wait. He's so excited.
Yeah, with all the stitch marks and the various different body parts, and one arm is slightly longer than the other.
She's so bossy.
I know.
In total hooker mode. She grabs him by the arm and just practically forces him into the hotel room.
But we can't tell you how it ends, but shall we just say that it doesn't quite work out to plan. It's something that will happen, which he really was, I think, hoping was not going to be the way this movie was going to end. But it's very funny, actually, the way it does end. I think it's really well done. That little twist, that it has on the end. But there is one quite, I'd say almost quite freaky scene, and that is that when he reanimates his girlfriend, the electricity. Before we even say that, what did you think of the reanimation where he has this? The idea of Frankenstein. They put the pole up into the sky to trap the electricity up. But he has her on this bed, if you like, gurney, and it's attached to this pole which goes up into the sky. But it's not just an antenna that goes up. He actually pushes her up on the pole, and she's about 100 meters in the air. Which means this just pole he's got in his garage must be buried 100 meters down into the earth.
Yeah, you definitely have to suspend your disbelief to enjoy this movie. The movie sounds stupid as hell. It is so entertaining to watch, though. This is really one of those, if you want to laugh, you just want to see something goofy, you want to see some boobs, this is it. You have to suspend your disbelief.
I know.
It's all outrageous. And actually our Dr. Frankenstein, Jeffrey, is not even a doctor.
No.
And, something we forgot to mention. This is a guy that works for the electricity company, and he tinkers. And I don't know where he got the fucking brain from. I don't know where he got the fucking eyeball from. But right at the beginning of the movie, he basically has a fish tank with a brain with an eyeball in it. Yes. That is what the hell? And the funny thing is, he's at his soon-to-be father-in-law's birthday party, and he's in the kitchen working on some kind of techno-biological project that he wants to work on. And his future mother-in-law walks in, and she's just she sees the brain with the eyeball and just doesn't even react to it. Just huh?
I know. It's just absolutely crazy, isn't it? It's and also later when after she's been killed by the lawnmower.
Oh my God.
We cross back to he's living with his mother. He's living in his mother's house, and in the fish tank, this brain with the eyeball is just swimming around in the fish tank. But it doesn't seem to bother anybody that there's this brain with an eyeball.
Where did the brain come from? Where did the eyeball come from? What the hell is it? Why is it alive? Why is it swimming around?
I mean, it's obviously just meant to be there to show us that he's tinkering with this idea of reanimation, but it's just absolutely so crazy.
So this is a nod to the 1962 movie The Brain That Wouldn't Die, which is a brain with an eyeball in it. Absolutely. But the only bit in this movie which was a little bit spooky, I suppose you might say, is that when he does reanimate her, we see the electricity gets a bit out of control and it runs through his garage where he's doing all of this. And
he's storing all the extra body bits which are left over from all the prostitutes in this giant like tub of it's like a refrigerator full of this special liquid that he's invented. But the electricity gets into the fridge and it brings all the body parts back to life. And
my God.
And do you remember this one? And they all start bonding and molding with each other and they create these really weird, freaky creatures.
That was freaky. That is really creepy.
It's just, you've got this head walking around just on one foot and one hand, or you've got a torso with ears on it, and it's really weird. It's kind of really weird. But in saying that, it's not gory. It's not. It's funny. It's freaky. It's funny. We've told you so much about this movie. It sounds like we've told you the whole movie. There is still so much we haven't even talked about. You really have to see this one. It is just, if you like any kind of B movie, if you like boobs, if you like any kind of horror, sci-fi comedy, you have to see Frankenhooker. It's just, I'm so glad that we rediscovered this gem. It's definitely. Watch this one. It's late at night with a couple of drinks and you will love this movie. It's so much fun. It's just so much fun. And seriously, as we said, there's not really any blood in this. There's some boobs, but big deal. There's boobs on television every 5 seconds these days. So, so basically, even the teenagers that listen to this show, you can still watch this one. Seriously, there's nothing bad in it, or anything like that.
Don't watch it with your parents, because that would just be awkward.
Probably don't sit down.
With your parents.
Don't watch it with mum and dad. No, but
don't watch it with your parents.
but
watch
definitely
it with one of your bestest friends. Don't watch this on date night with someone you don't know very well.
No, no. But it is really funny. You will you'll laugh all the way through it. I mean, you really will.
Yeah, you really will.
It's it is really well done. So now. I once again, thumbs up from me. This is absolutely loved it. Mind you, I don't think we've actually done a movie on this show yet, Velvet, where I've actually said thumbs down.
Oh, we will eventually.
Yeah,
it will be a sad day in Zaius Report history, but it will come. It will happen someday.
Well, I do. Although I do recall a podcast with Cliff from Only Funny to Us was on, and we did talk about Robot Monster. And
oh God!
And now, even though that movie is shocking, it's absolutely terrible. I still loved it. So
it's worth. That's another one that it's so bad you have to see it to believe it. We've got a couple of those coming up in the future that are so bad.
Oh yeah,
you have to see it to believe it. I can't wait to do those too.
Oh, we've got some great movies coming up. Oh my God,
you already know what I'm talking about.
I know. So it's Velvet and I have been planning out some movies to come, and oh my goodness, we've got some ones you're gonna love.
Goodness,
there's no doubt about that. So definitely check out Frankenhooker. It's fantastic. It's absolutely so much fun. Most definitely. I think we've sort of come to an end.
I think that's it. I think we've said it. It's all been said.
My voice is starting to go, as it always does around about this time.
Right.
So it's, I suppose before we go, we, of course, have to say thank you so much for Eileen Daly for coming on. That was an absolute privilege getting to, speak to her. One of the, I suppose, iconic actresses, of British horror. So that was just absolutely wonderful, because she's a cult movie queen, cult movie scream queen, I think, as such. So, was such a pleasure to talk to her. So shout outs, I suppose. Remember, of course, you can follow Eileen on Twitter, which is Eileen Starlet. I'll get that right.
You got it.
I got it wrong the first time.
Yeah,
that's right. So please follow her. And of course, from there, you'll find all the links, but I really highly suggest everybody subscribe to her YouTube channel because it is absolutely brilliant. She posts so much stuff on there. So yeah, really do check that out. Of course, you can follow this show on Twitter. It is, of course, the Zaius Report, all one word. You can like us on Facebook, which is simply the Zaius Report as well. You can, of course, follow myself. I am, of course, Martini Superdry. I remembered it this week. So you can follow me there. And, of course, remember to follow a sister or brother podcast that we deal with quite a lot, Only Funny to Us, OFTU Podcast on Twitter. Please follow them because they actually help us out quite a lot. So please follow their show, and it's a great show. It's really funny.
Yeah, they're funny guys.
Oh, yeah, they're very funny. And Velvet, take it away.
Okay, and if you want to know more about me and see what I'm up to, please be 18 or older since my content tends to be quite adult, but you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at OMG, it's Velvet. And that's it.
Oh,
Take it away, Warren.
It's such a cool handle. It's just such a cool handle. I absolutely love it.
Thanks.
So please follow Velvet, most definitely. And of course, as always, we of course have to say thank you to Alana Evans because of course she allows us to play her music. So thank you very much for Alana. And of course, it was great talking to her last week too. So if you missed that podcast, please go back and have a listen to it because it was really great fun talking with her as well. I think that's about it. Have we forgotten anything or?
Nope, I think we're good to wind on down.
Oh, cool. Time for a coffee for me, I think.
Right on.
I'd always sort of say time for a scotch, but for me, it's still the morning. So look, thanks for listening, guys. We'll of course be back next week, and we are going to have another special guest next week. But as always, don't want to jinx anything, so you'll just have to wait and see. But we are going to have another guest next week. So I'll tell you what, we're really excited about that. So, definitely it'll be worthwhile listening in. That's it. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Velvet, as always.
Right on. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
And we will leave you, as always, with the wonderful and charming Alana Evans and Perfect.
You're always smiling when I see you. It doesn't matter.